Sonic Team is known, of course, for making all the Sonic games, but as successful as their Sonic franchise is, they had other IPs that they were desperately trying to start new franchises with also, but it just didn't work out. The whole Sonic brand along with Sonic Team could have been much bigger, but the discontinuation of the Sega Saturn and the Dreamcast kinda messed all that up. Can their big brother savior, Nintendo, help them revive the Sonic Team's other unknown characters? Or will Nintendo continue to be like, nah, we only want Sonic? So it's pretty easy to assume that if Nintendo hadn't collaborated with Sega in their Sonic franchise, Sega probably wouldn't still be a thing. After losing the console wars of the 2000s, Sega just hadn't been the same. I believe I mentioned on my Sonic marketing video that Nintendo's implementation of Sonic onto the GameCube and the Game Boy Advance, like with Sonic Adventure 2 Battle and the Sonic Advance games, pretty much saved the whole Sonic franchise. And with Sonic Mega Collection and Sonic Heroes, Sonic had crossed over onto all consoles, and it was almost like Sega didn't completely fail with the Dreamcast, and Sonic Team found a way to keep working. Sonic Team, of course, is a Japanese video game development division of Sega. It took the name Sonic Team in 1991 with the release of Sonic the Hedgehog for the Sega Genesis. Sonic Team would spread out between USA and Japan to make more Sonic games, and after 1994's Sonic & Knuckles, Sonic Team would get on board with making new non-Sonic related games. For the Sega Saturn, which didn't do nearly as well as the Sega Genesis,
Taste Temptation from Sega, delivering crystal clear digital video and rich, creamy 3D graphics.
the team created Nights into Dreams to release in 1996. It was about this dream being, a genderless jester named Nights, who would fly through dreams trying to gather enough energy to save the dream world. Sonic Team did research on dreaming and REM sleep, and blended that with the idea they already had about an androgynous character that could fly like a bird. Like, it looks like it could be some sort of Sonic spin-off game.
But it's not!
According to an interview for Retro Gamer magazine, Nights was inspired by anime and Cirque du Soleil's Mystery performance. The game would use 3D rendering, something that gained popularity in video games around this time as developers eagerly waited for technology to catch up with their ideas. It was introduced with this optional gamepad, the Saturn 3D controller. Inspired by the N64 controller, it had an analog stick to make the 3D movement easier than that Saturn controller had made it. It was a pretty big development. It kept that mature, neutral look that Sega's consoles had, which was opposite to Nintendo's colorful, kid-friendly features. The 3D controller was advertised along with Nights, with the slogan, "Prepare to fly." Nights into Dreams would get critical acclaim and do well with sales, even with comparison to Nintendo's new Super Mario 64. But while the N64 was just getting started, Sega Saturn was already in its sunset years. In 1999, Sonic co-creator and president of the Sonic Team, Yuji Naka, confirmed that a Nights sequel was in development for the Dreamcast. Now obviously, with a console called Dreamcast, they would have to have a Nights sequel, right? In a magazine interview for Edge, Naka stated at the time of Nights into Dreams' release that this was a new beginning for Sega and Sonic Team as a brand. Unfortunately, the sequel would be cancelled by December 2000. Eventually, Naka would double down his confidence in Nights being a franchise like Sonic, and reinforcing Sega's identity. This was around 2003 after Nintendo started lending Sega a helping hand with the Sonic Adventure GameCube port, and it could be seen that Sonic Team still had a future. In December 2007, a Nights sequel was finally released through the Nintendo Wii, and despite its mixed reviews, Sonic Team would still be open to continuing Nights with a third game. Going back to 1998 and the struggling Sega Saturn, the team made a futuristic action game about firefighters rescuing people called Burning Rangers. It was short but enjoyable according to a few game reviewers, and overall had pretty good scores. Opinions on the graphics were mixed though. This was one of the last ever games to come out for the Saturn in 1998, and Burning Rangers' designer said the original concept was for it to be an online multiplayer game for 4 players, which would have been fun since it was a firefighting game, but Sonic Team would revisit this online idea with the early 2000s Phantasy Star Online. Phantasy Star is an ongoing RPG series started by Sega in 1987. Similar to Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy, it would gain more popularity as online functionality became more doable with home consoles. From 1999 to 2000, the Dreamcast would dish out more games, and Sonic Team had 2 music-themed games to come out, Space Channel 5 and Samba de Amigo. Space Channel 5 had that Y2K influence all throughout, and even after being ported to the PS2, it had low sales. Probably because it was just hard to see what kind of game this was. Like, by looking at it, it just kind of seemed like another random Dreamcast game. Dreamcast wasn't necessarily dropping hits. If they were, they wouldn't have gotten buried by the competition like they did. They have a few memorable games, like Jet Set Radio, but most of their stuff, sadly, was pretty forgettable, like the underappreciated Samba de Amigo. A rhythm game that drew on Latin American culture. It had controllers shaped like maracas and a Brazilian monkey named Amigo. It was really ahead of its time. In 1999, the big rhythm game movement was just starting to get popular in the West, and this probably affected the Western sales. But rhythm games have already been a big deal in Japanese arcades. With Sega's approval, Samba de Amigo was ported to the Wii in 2007, but by then, this little 1999 rhythm game had little to offer to a generation raised on Guitar Hero and Dance Dance Revolution. After the demise of the Dreamcast and after Nintendo's generous adoption of Sonic, Sonic Team would try once more to create a brand new character, hopefully using its similarity to Sonic to gain attention. Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg was a platform game released on the GameCube in 2003. It used the appeal of caring for and hatching eggs, similar to how they started using Chow eggs in the Sonic series. The whole digital pet aspect was very popular in the Y2K era, and Japan were the masters of this. Despite using concepts already proven to work, including the Sonic Adventure 2 engine, Billy Hatcher would get very mid reviews, citing the simple plot and the physics. Due to poor sales, Sega was reluctant to consider a sequel, but almost 20 years later, Sonic Team would show interest again at reviving Billy Hatcher as a series. Sonic Team has a pretty unbalanced tier list when it comes to their characters, but when it comes to party games like Sega Superstars Tennis and Sonic Pinball Party or Sonic Riders and Sega All-Star Racing, these low-tier characters manage to make an appearance. They also tend to make their lesser-known characters Easter eggs through their bigger games, like in Phantasy Star Online 2. A Samba de Amigo song is featured as the lobby music every April as part of an Easter event. In more regards to making use of these lesser-known characters, Archie Comics themselves has made a miniseries with Nights into Dreams just to see if it would sell in the States back in 1998. Turns out, it didn't sell too well. But in their 2015 World Unite crossover with Sonic the Hedgehog and Mega Man, Knights and Billy Hatcher would make an appearance. Sonic Team has already stated that they'd be open to continuing with their IPs Knights and Billy Hatcher, but with Amigo, it looks like it's already started. Sega's big brother Nintendo would announce in a recent Nintendo Direct that a sequel to Samba de Amigo was coming for the Switch, and the Joy-Cons would be used as maracas. And even a VR version of this would be released for Facebook's Meta brand. Sonic Team still seems to be very fond of their creations, and with Nintendo backing them up, it's only made them more confident with themselves. Surely, with Nintendo's help, they could properly revive Knights and even Billy Hatcher with legitimate sequels, but it seems like Nintendo might only be interested in pushing Sonic. At some point, they'll probably run out of ideas for Sega's running blue mascot. Maybe only then will we see them push Sonic Team's lower tier characters. Maybe then we'll see a game all about Team Chaotix or Team Shadow. Maybe then they'll find a way to bring Chao pets back. This is all possible because the thing is, nostalgia is a trendy factor, and that makes it that much easier for Nintendo to let Sonic Team create new material for their old IPs. They've already given Samba de Amigo another chance, so yeah, it's definitely possible. Through their Sonic brand, Sonic Team can still unleash all their old IPs through Nintendo. We just gotta wait and see. Well, let me know what you think. Like and subscribe for more of these random nostalgia-related videos, and I will see ya.